Oh, and Ginny, dear, congratulations on making Gryffindor. Your father and I are so proud.
Hands up everyone who thought Ginny Weasley didn't get the attention she deserved in the Harry Potter movies. For those who saw the films, Ginny may not appear as significant a character as she was in the books. Today we're going to examine why Ginny felt like a minor character.
You never know what you'll find up here.
For anyone who hasn't read all the books or seen all the movies, approach with caution. This video does contain spoilers.
You hear that? We must be getting close.
Let's start with the books. Readers of the series were treated to a strong and layered character, whereas the movies left the youngest Weasley as a bit of an afterthought. Ginny is introduced in the Harry Potter series as a very young and inexperienced girl. She comes off as quite soft-spoken and nervous, especially around Harry, for whom she's always had an affinity.
Hello.
As the youngest of 7 siblings and the only girl in her family besides her mother, it was quite easy for Ginny to be forgotten about and cast aside. While these were her circumstances, it certainly wasn't the case, as Ginny was a far stronger character than she was given credit for, especially in the movies.
Well done, everyone. Great work.
In the books, readers see a smart, feisty, independent, powerful, and inspiring woman.
Come on, Ginny, we'll get you a seat. Hurry.
During Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Ginny becomes of huge significance as she is under the influence of Tom Riddle.
Not that she knew what she was doing, she was, shall we say, in a kind of trance.
While viewers of the film see a love-struck, doe-eyed, and lost girl, let's consider the fact that she was literally being controlled by a Horcrux during her first year at Hogwarts.
The damage a silly little book can do, especially in the hands of a silly little girl.
Talk about diving in off the deep end. Harry began to notice her more in the midst of this and paid her some attention, but we aren't sure he really took in how strong this young girl was. Let's take a minute to note that Ginny went through an extremely traumatic hardship, and against all odds, she came out of it stoically, but also with a fire in her eyes.
It was me. Riddle made me.
Later in the books, she unexpectedly became a Quidditch star, going so far as to win the House Cup while she took over being the Seeker since Harry was stuck in detention. This detail was sort of glossed over in the films, but it actually adds a lot to her character.
Shut it!
As the youngest and only girl in her family, she used to steal her brother's broomsticks to practice and became incredibly skilled at what her brothers called a boy's sport. She was a girl that was all about defying the odds and not letting circumstances hold her down. While this may seem minor, it's a detail that speaks a lot to her strength and resilience. This, like many other instances where Ginny was a vital part of the story, was skipped over and the movies focused more on Harry's reaction and involvement. Since the movies are named after him and the point is to follow his story, it makes sense. But it is a shame that Ginny is mainly seen as his love interest, instead of the determined, charismatic woman that she is.
Don't be so mean.
It started out as a schoolgirl crush and ended in marriage and kids. We're glad this turned out like a happy ever after, but how did Ginny go from a nervous young girl to the woman Harry wanted to spend his life with? First, let's consider the fact that Ginny was always truly honest. She may have been a bit shy, but she was always truthful about how she felt.
Don't you trust me?
Remember those awkward singing cards? Once Ginny saw that Harry had eyes for Cho Chang, she didn't let it get her down.
It's just learning all this. Makes me wonder whether if he'd known it.
Our girl moved on, checked out her options, and played the field. She didn't allow the judgment about dating around that she got from Ron to affect her.
And snogging.
That happens to be my sister.
So?
Never apologetic, she was true to herself in the way that she lived. Remember when we said she was resilient? Not only did she open herself up to other romantic prospects, but she was also respectful of Harry's feelings for Cho and never tried to meddle. Mature, spunky, and clever? How Harry didn't fall for her earlier, we're not quite sure. Perhaps the film's choices about Ginny's character can explain that.
Take my hand.
Once Harry finally recognized how incredible Ginny was, they got together. But that realization was covered so quickly in the films that audiences barely had time to absorb it. What the movies didn't show was how Ginny and Harry were equals, and the fact that the boy who lived needed Ginny just as much as she wanted him. Ginny was the one Harry confided in, the one who he could laugh and relax with. Since it's obvious that Ginny was much, much more than just a random love interest for Harry to date temporarily.
Ah, Miss Weasley, come in, come in.
It's important to note the way she behaved after Harry broke up with her. There was no grudge held, and Ginny understood that, at the time, there were just more important things going on. Even though they weren't a couple for a while, the littlest Weasley showed her maturity and continued to support Harry and her fellow cohorts at Hogwarts, fiercely and loyally.
Harry, what happens if Umbridge does find out? Who cares?
A true friend. There is definitely a lot to cover in the movies. We get it. Cutting down these books to 2 hours is hard, which is probably why they skipped a lot of the special moments that were written. But we wish they had, since it would have made Ginny and Harry's union near the end of the series that much more powerful and exciting. She and Harry wound up together because they were partners and needed each other, not just because she was crazy about him. Remember Dumbledore's army? Yeah, it was our girl Ginny that came up with that name. She, Neville, and Luna are also the ones that kept it going and supported all the students who were at Hogwarts while Harry, Ron, and Hermione were away hunting Horcruxes. In the early days of Dumbledore's army, Ginny was also mastering extremely difficult spells with ease and proved herself to be a very powerful witch. How about that Reducto curse? Let's not even get started on her stunning Patronus charm. The movies only showed us a glimpse of this, and left the continuation of Dumbledore's army as an afterthought, which is too bad. Speaking of Ginny being an amazing witch, remember that she was also an integral part of the battle at the Ministry of Magic.
Always wondered, what was the reason for the connection between you?
And countless others. This powerful witch tried to steal the sword of Gryffindor from Snape's office. Talk about risk. These acts of bravery were vital to the Harry Potter stories, and unfortunately, many folks who only saw the films wouldn't know just how vital, since they didn't make the cut in the movies. Since it was the Harry Potter series, people who watched the films were mostly shown the relationship Harry had with others and how various events affected him. Readers of the series will recognize that the books delved further into Ginny's relationship and interactions with others.
Hello, ladies. Love potions, eh? Yeah, they really do work.
One relationship of note is that of Hermione and Ginny. The two of them were there for each other and actually quite close. Even when they had their disagreements, they met each other with compassion and sophisticated thinking. The movies mainly focused on Hermione as the strong female character, and since there were a lot of characters and a lot of stories to cover, it's understandable. However, it is unfortunate that audiences didn't get to see the dynamic power of these two strong, independent female role models. We've established that Ginny was so much more than the films gave her credit for, so let's recap who she really was. She was the daughter of Arthur and Molly Weasley. She was the youngest and only girl of 7 siblings. She was an honorable Gryffindor, a powerful witch, a loyal friend, a fiery force to be reckoned with, and not just because of the color of her hair. She was Ginny Weasley. While the movies didn't serve justice to the character, we know in our hearts that she was far more than just a love interest. How do you feel about the way Ginny was portrayed in the films? Would you want to see a film with Ginny as the main focus? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and head over to our channel to check out the rest of our Potterhead content.